Hey everybody, Steve Colescott, Senior Content Manager for elitefts.com. We're talking once again to Bryan Mann. And Bryan, your topic at the seminar is optimal arousal for lifting. So my question to you, it's kind of obvious to anyone who's spent any time in the gym that certain people have a certain level of getting psyched up for a lift that works for them. Do you find that that there are certain types, or is there like a spectrum of arousal that works for people? What can you speak to that?
Yeah, it's a spectrum, really. For any given person with any given lift on any given day, they've got a level of arousal that's going to be optimal for them. There's this zone. So getting under-aroused, obviously, if you're not psyched up enough, you can't even get yourself into the gym. And then there's over-aroused, where you get yourself so psyched up, you miss the lift because you lose your groove. So there's a continuum there. And within that, it varies for the person from year to year with experience and things like that. I was actually just talking with somebody earlier about this. It's like, yeah, you know, so-and-so gets really psyched up, but I can't. And, you know, they're thinking I'm not bringing it, but if I get psyched up, I lose it. Well, it's just different people have got different things. Some people are just biomechanically suited for something. Like me, I've got short legs, long torso. I was built perfectly for squatting. I didn't have to think about it. Just whenever the first day that I squatted, it looked great. It looked textbook. So I could get extremely aroused from my squat, and it would be great. Now my first bench, whenever I was squatting over 600 pounds, I could barely bench 300 pounds in a bench shirt. My body, while I had the big chest and everything, I didn't know how to bench. I couldn't groove it. So anytime that I would get psyched up on the bench, I would just shoot it back towards my face and completely lose it. So whenever I found that, hey, on the squat, I need to get psyched up. On the bench press, if I get psyched up, I'm done. So just finding that zone for each person and getting that range for that person down for that lift.
What compromises that? Is it a hormonal level? Is it a brainwave pattern? What different things go into optimal arousal?
To achieving the arousal?
Yes.
So it's just simply arousal is just the level of upness, how excited you are. And there are a lot of things that affect that. You know, your heart rate would absolutely be one. You've got your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. So if to engage arousal, there's a lot of different means to do that. So some ways that people do it are, you know, the loud music, etc. Ammonia, that's a great way. I'm actually going to have ammonia in a topic for the column coming up, so we're setting things up here. Breathing is actually an excellent way to do it. You know, if you look at Robert Sapolsky's work from Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers, well, that's just his book. There were some studies talking about this, that the vagus nerve, which regulates breathing, is also heavily engaged in the autonomic nervous system. So if you breathe deeply through the nose, you engage the parasympathetic nervous system to bring you back down. Short breathing through the mouth engages the sympathetic nervous system, which elevates you for arousal. So things like breathing, simply thoughts, what you're thinking, that has a lot to do with arousal. And it's just a total systemic thing. It's not just one thing with the brain waves or the hormones. Everything works together as a system. And if you don't understand that, it's really easy to get over-aroused. For instance, how many people use stimulants on meet day that they don't use normally? Then they try and go through their normal arousal process, and then they get way over-amped and they start doing just stupid things that they haven't done in years. It's just totally systemic. It's not just one individual section.
You know, it's interesting you talk, especially when you're talking about the breathing. For anyone that spent some time in the gym, they can kind of picture that. You see people kind of, you know, pacing like a leopard in a cage before they're getting ready, and just certain things that as you say them, it just clicks. Yeah, that these people don't even realize what they're doing, but they're triggering that. How is it that someone develops this? Do you think it's just mimicry of people around you, or is it just a natural progression for what you want to accomplish?
I think some of it's both. I mean, humans just work simply off modeling. So they see other people doing something, then they start doing it. I mean, that's the way that we learn how to walk, et cetera. That's human nature. I think that also people learn what works for them. And you're not going to keep doing something if it doesn't work. So the pacing, that is something that actually goes in with that nervous system, sympathetic nervous system activation. You know, getting that adrenaline, that fight or flight, and the thoughts that are going on with that. Typically somebody who's doing that pacing is actually a result of what's going on in their head, the rage that's forming. And it's just an expression of that. People are just doing whatever it takes for them to get where they need to be.
Have you ever watched, like, if you get on YouTube and you see videos of like people from the police car where someone attacks a police officer, where it's very similar to someone approaching a bar?
Yeah.
You know, some of those characteristics.
Right. Yeah. So the characteristics, that's human nature. It's just straight up human nature. It's just what we're bringing out to achieve the optimal results.
I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to ask you a question that I recently asked Chad Aikes in an interview. We look at two classic examples. Ed Coan, calm, reserved, flips it on when he's under the bar. Kirk Karwoski, raging bull, heading to the bar. Do you think that they might benefit if Ed Coan had gone partway closer to Kirk, or would Kirk be better if he would have gone partway closer to the style that Ed, or are they perfect where they were?
I think they were perfect where they were. And the reason being is that Ed knew what he needed to do. I mean, Ed Coan's, I actually just found this because I'm moving. His mental training thing that he talked about in like 1996, an issue of Muscle and Fitness, about how he goes through and he approaches through visualization. And he is using his mind to try and go through the lift before he does it and focus on all the technique. Where Kirk, his body was more just sympathetic dominant, where he was just turned on, I'm ready to go, I'm going to kill somebody or I'm going to get the lift, one of the two, but something's going down. They were each just where they needed to be. There is no one blanket optimal for everybody. That's why everybody responds differently to training. And some people are better at different exercises than others. Everyone's different. It's the individual variance. I think they were perfect where they were, or else they wouldn't have reached that elite status.
Excellent. Thank you.